feelings?
We have a rather interesting one today.
Do we?
We do.
Let's see. What's your definition of interesting?
I mean, we shall see. I guess there's this idea of how casual sex is perceived as a society. Also tying in from the last conversation around gender.
Good segue, actually.
Yes, the fact that, casual sex is something that's always societally been seen as something that's generally more beneficial and something that's much more proposed by men as something that we derive much more joy from. Mm-hmm. And women who end up being parts of that are somewhat, as a society, seen in particular terms, used with words like hoe and loose and all of that stuff. Whereas with men, that's not the same sort of terminology. Just kind of thinking about, does casual sex only benefit men? Mm-hmm. And actually, with women that choose to exercise their agency with casual sex, as the society progressed enough for them to not be seen in those derogatory terms. That's the topic for today.
That's the topic for the day.
Not a lot to chew on, of course not.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Like always, right?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
So it's an interesting one. So I will start with the sort of the scientific devil advocacy of it all, right?
Okay.
Which is, as men, we've been programmed to sort of spray our seeds and hoping one sticks. That's how.
Literally.
Yeah, it's literally, because that is what. If you look across nature,
right,
the male species, or the male of the species, always has evolved to get as much as he can out there, hoping that one sticks and his bloodline goes on.
I don't know if that's true, because there are some animal species that's the opposite. The women are the ones that go and have sex with all the multiple men.
So the woman has always been the one that uses the best gene. It could be multiple, but it could be the multiple best gene. The guy, if it was up to the guy, he would impregnate all the females in his camp or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But the woman would hardly, I'm not talking about the human species at this point in time, but in most of the animal, kingdom, the woman is the one that picks the strongest male. Yep. So that's the reason why male would literally fight sometimes to the death to be able to be the one the female will pick. So, but if it was up to the male, he wouldn't fight to the death. If it was up to the male, he would literally impregnate all the females that are ready to mate, right? But the female is almost sort of like, in most of the animal kingdom, the female is almost being like the quality checker. So if you're not strong enough, then my offspring is not going to be able to survive. So you are not going to breed. You're not going to. If you are strong enough, if your peacock, if your feathers are bright enough, if you are the alpha male, you have the license to then come and we can then have an offspring. So from that standpoint, the male has always wanted to spread his soul, as you will. But now we live in a modern society where things is changed, right? Okay. We no longer, as human beings, we no longer have to do that. But there's also a double standard, right? Okay. So if I go and I sleep with 200 women, let's say,
is that the number?
No, it's probably like 10. but just for the show's sake, I say 200 women. It's probably 5 or 6. But let's say I've slept with 200 women.
Right.
My boys see me and will spot me and go, player, or something ridiculous like that. The woman does that, and she's, like you said, will be labeled whatever she gets labeled on. And we, as a society, and it goes from the topic we just had, we as a society feels that's okay. But why is that okay? What is it that I can do that she cannot do? And is it still because in our mind the woman is the quality checker? Is it in our mind the woman is supposed to be the one that picks the alpha of the alpha male? And right now alphas are different, right? So in the past it could have been the strongest male, but now it's no longer that. Now it could be the guy with the most, one with the most money, the one that's the most handsome, the tallest guy, the one with the biggest bicep, the one with the great smile.
You're describing me.
I know. Man has the biggest bicep, right? So we are still in that mindset of, oh yeah, the woman has to pick the quality, and the guy is okay to just go for quantity. And why do we still think that? When society is moved on from where it used to be, and we're no longer at a space where we underpopulated. We actually overpopulated. So we don't even need to spread our seeds like we used to in the past, right?
I think for me is we cannot enter this conversation without actually looking at the role that conditioning of society, which again links to religion. I think religion in a lot of different facets of it have purported this model that purity for a woman is the most desirable. And actually doesn't speak, in most cases, doesn't speak I guess doesn't speak specifically about what the male purity looks like, if there is that conversation around that. So I think with that premise, the idea that women should save themselves and keep themselves, and as society, that gives them more value. And therefore, the man should not explicitly said in religious terms, but it's okay to sow your seeds. And then when you're ready, find a woman who has chosen to keep herself pure, and then you have done well for yourself. And I think that narrative is one that has been kind of embedded in a lot of societies which come from religious kind of tenets, you know, because England would term itself to be a Christian country.
Catholic state, right?
I mean, heaven knows that is definitely not the way in which it conducts a lot of its politics.
The pillaging and raping is done.
Absolutely. So will America and all these other places. So because of that, I think those kind of cultural norms have seeped into the ways in which our secular thoughts then come about. Because then women, in terms of women and how they engage with the opposite sex, if they are that way inclined, generally, it's about, that's where all these rules, like, I'm not going to sleep with this guy until he does this, and that. And then another friend who chooses to not have the same rule in that same kind of environment, she's looked down upon her, oh, that's my friend, she's easy, she'll sleep with this guy very quickly. And again, the idea that a man's conquering ideals is, well, I just need to show these representations of what it is to be a man, and then I just need to close the deal and have sex with this girl, and I've shown that, I've ticked that one on my I guess my masculinity tick list. And I could go back to my friends and say, yep, I conquered that one. And I think that is like the culture in which we have been reared. And I think with that being steeped in the patriarchal structure, what that breeds is inequality. Because what is good for the goose is
good for the gander.
Exactly. And I think therein lies the problem, because casual sex in its definition is just two people who seek to consent to an agency of having sex without any attachment. That, as a simple premise, should not have, in my opinion, should not be something that should have any kind of moral connotation nor religious connotation, in my own personal opinion. But obviously, as a society, those structures have already been in place. So therefore, even if two people agree that that's all we want to do in this situation, why should one person come off worse off in that equation? Because they've equally done the same thing. They've equally been prime and solely responsible in making a decision to choose to have sex consensually. So both of them should leave there equally a whole, or equally just
nothing.
Absolutely.
Pimping.
Exactly. And I just think until those narratives start to get challenged, which I think is a long way away from where we are, I think those movements are slowly happening, because the words around hoe and stuff is getting rebranded. But I do think, to a certain degree, of course, not neglecting the fact that the huge problem comes from the men ourselves, but I think even within the women, there is still a lot of that narrative. For example, like, I don't know, dating apps or whatever. Like, a woman could say, oh, I'm not the type that sleeps around. Like, the first question for me is even, that feeds into that same narrative. What is the type of a woman that sleeps around? If a woman chooses to have agency to choose to have sex with someone, why does that brand her as someone that sleeps around? And actually, what characteristics should be attributed to her that you don't have? That you're trying to tell me that you're better off than that woman. And I just think that is such
it makes you a better human being.
Exactly. And I just think that is so problematic, because in the same way, with men that ask women how many partners they've ever had. Either way, you know, to me, those questions are equally steeped in the same poisonous narrative. Because why? What should that tell you about that person? About their moral compass? What should that tell you about that person's emotional maturity? What should that tell you about that person's cognitive awareness? That should tell you nothing about that. Actually, if anything, it should tell you more about the emotional maturity that somebody has, the intelligence that somebody has to be able to make decisions that are based upon her agency. And be proud of those choices, and actually not attribute that to being less of a person or more of a person.
To be fair, though, just one quick one. If a person says, "I'm not the type of girl that sleeps around," maybe they're not judging the one that sleeps around. Maybe all they're saying is, "I'm just not the person that sleeps around." If that makes any sense.
But then the question is,
we assume that they're judging someone that sleeps around, but maybe they're not.
They're operating on a binary. Because what does that mean? What does the person that sleep around?
They're just describing themselves.
Because
I saying they like to choose their partner carefully before they go into bed with them. Maybe that's the kind of person they are, and they differentiate themselves with someone that might not necessarily have to tick a lot of boxes because they just want an instant gratification. So maybe they just want you to be aware that you might have to check a few more boxes before we sleep together.
But for me, because I personally I think it's very troublesome to operate in a binary narrative, because I am not one thing and I'm not the other. I can never say to you, I am, because what you do then is you create yourself no room to have agency to make decisions based on how you feel.
You go if you've not checked, because it should also be about simultaneous feeling. So it's like, if you've not checked all these boxes, then I feel all this intense feeling, but my box is not being checked yet, so I need to wait.
I've met people that in some instances, we have had incredible intellectual conversation. We've had...
Is that what you call it?
Absolutely. We've had that. And ultimately, we've deduced that the strongest connection that we have now is solely physical. And we've both created the conducive environment for us to explore those conversations, that this is what we want from it. And we've done that. And it's absolutely maintain that same level of respect, that same level of intellectual conversations that have happened after as well. And that, to me, that might have been the first time that woman has ever done that before. And that could be the first time I've ever done that before. Shut up. But the point is, there, in that moment, we both exercised the agency to choose to do what we felt at that time. Not what we don't ever do or what we always do. And I think when someone tells me I'm not the type, that again speaks so much to me about the binary narrative that they've box themselves into. Because because there shouldn't be a type of anyone that does anything. You know, I have not killed someone before, but I'm never going to tell you I'm not a type of person that doesn't kill people. Because if somebody does something to someone who's really close to me, I might be killing somebody. So this idea that there's a binary narrative, I'm not this person or I'm not that person, speaks to me about someone that doesn't even know themselves. Because actually, if you know yourself, you realize that there's elements of yourself that you probably haven't uncovered because the scenario has not put you in a position to be able to explore that side of yourself. And that's where I think a lot of the problems are with people that don't even know themselves, because they only subscribe to a narrative that's been pitched to them by the society. And actually what that means is, if you're this type of person, the society values you more.
Good girls don't sleep around. What's the definition of good?
Exactly.
So like, now you're definitely right. But a question. So if you met a girl and you knew she'd had 300 partners.
Well, how would I have known?
Let's say you knew.
How though?
Let's say she told you.
Okay.
Let's say she told you. Let's say out of the blue, you having a conversation, goes, "Sup, Slick? How you doing?" Oh yeah, you know, just so you know, I know you might not need that information, but I'm letting you know anyway.
Yeah.
I've had 300 partners. Does it change your view of her? And would you be able to plan the future with her?
The first thing I'm going to answer the second question first.
Yeah, go on. Of course.
I would definitely be able to plan a future with her if her characteristics as a person makes me feel like I want to plan a future with her in that regard. The first question is, I am not going to lie to you and say that number wouldn't trigger a feeling within me, but I'll have to interrogate the reason why I'm triggered by that feeling. Because actually for me, there are still levels of conditioning that are in me. And I know that. And I am very aware of that. So if that she says something like that, I know it would trigger a feeling within me, but then I'll have to, based on the second answer, challenge myself not to not want to plan a future with that person because she's told me exactly. Because I'll have to ask myself, why does that matter to me? Even though I would never ask her the question, because I solely don't really need to know that number. But if that number gets to me, I know that there will be a trigger, which is based upon the way I've been conditioned for the most part of my life. It's only been the past few years I've been unlearning some of those conditioning, and it's going to take forever to really consistently do that work. So therefore, I will be triggered, but that would not inhibit me from trying to plan a future if that's what I wanted with the person before knowing that information. How about you?
Now I'm with you on that. I think.
Are you though?
My first reaction, just like you, would be probably taken aback. But I always believe the heart. I'm a firm believer. I always tend to quote this. The heart wants what the heart wants. The heart is always going to want what the heart wants. And if you meet someone, because for me, the idea of meeting someone and you are totally into them and you are going to disregard them because of the amount of sleeping partners they've had, when everything else is amazing, it's ludicrous to me. I'm not saying that number might not take me aback. Yeah, just like you, it's definitely going to take me aback. But it's also being able to step outside yourself every once in a while and go, what if I was in the same scenario? What if I've slept
Probably
with...
are.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about me, but I know about you.
Obviously, it's just 10 you've had, right?
Exactly. No, I said 6. I came down to 6. But yeah, if it was the shoe was on the other foot and I was being honest and I said this to her, would I want her judging me? Would I want her writing me off? Regardless of all the amazing things we are when we are together, would I want her writing me off? If it's a no, and if I'm really into that person, then that would not be a factor to me. But you are definitely right. It's why do we feel that? And it's from society, the way we've been raised. It's the narrative, even from the books we've read. Snow White was sleeping for years, waiting for a Prince Charming to come give her a kiss to wake her up, right? Prince Charming has done all his dirt and Snow White's just been virginal, waiting away for her.
So she was getting with the 7 dwarfs?
You know what? Good on her if she was. I would.
But I think, what's really a big problem is the fact that also societally, the imbalance comes from what women are also raised to expect.
Yes.
Because there are some women that would want to have a guy who has a player history. Because to them, that gives them the perspective that he's a desired person.
Yeah.
And he has this fluent experience with women.
Yeah.
Even though they don't afford themselves that same
experience to
agency
match him up.
Yes. Yeah. But that's what they aspire to. Whereas if a woman was told that this guy has never had sex with anyone before, in their head, they almost think, well, that means nobody really wants it. As opposed to thinking, wow, that's a great thing. This person has preserved themselves. And actually, if they are asking to have a woman as well who has not slept with many people because they've chosen that that's what they want for themselves. So therefore, they are also equally seeking that out. That should be a beautiful thing. But actually, for the most part, there's a lot of women that will look at that in an adverse way and think, well, that must mean he's not really the type that most girls are into, or he's probably a lame guy and all these other things. So until those narratives are equally challenged as well, that women are not looking to the idea of what it means to be a made man or desirable man or attractive man with the same trope.
Lame also, to be fair, he's probably lame also.
Well, the guy that's been around.
No, the guy that hasn't.
Is probably lame as well.
Yeah, so to be fair, the woman's probably right. He's probably lame.
Why? Why do you think that?
I just played the devil's advocate.
Well, that's definitely because I know a few that are not.
Yeah.
That on paper, most women will never know that they've never had partners before. And that's not because they are definitely not able to get partners. It's because they've chosen consciously to not do that. Despite a lot of women actually actively throwing themselves at them. So actually that's far from the case.
That's like,
say that to the devil's advocate that you're speaking on behalf of.
But that is like a minority to the rule, though.
That probably, of course, it is. I think it is
because most guys want to have sex. Most guys, it's once again, it comes in our DNA. Most
people want.
Most people want to have sex, but
I think women are conditioned to hide that desire.
Yeah, because I think it's different the way we manifest our sexual desires.
Sexes are your
I know.
Manifest.
the way we manifest our sexual desires comes from two different places. We are very outward. And
Does it come from two different? Mine comes from one place, bro.
Oh, good one. See, mine come from here. And then here. I don't know where yours is coming from. But mine is here and here. Hence the two.
In the words of Five Dog. Bust a nut in the eye. You can see where I come from.
Oh, shit. That's a good one. But yeah, I think so. We assume, because if you're looking for something in a place that you assume that thing should be, if it isn't there, you're looking at the wrong place, right? If we judge in the way we manifest our sexual desires to a woman, it's misplaced. It's the same way as if a woman is judging a man by the way she manifests her sexual desire. That it's going to be totally misplaced. But yeah, I think you are right. We live in a time where anyone should exercise whatever they want to exercise, right? But just like the topic we touched on before, the societal change needs to happen as well to coincide with the change that's happening now. So from the narrative we tell our kids, don't get me wrong, the narrative of telling your kids, you got to be careful, you got to choose the right partner. That's all fine and good. But when that person becomes a sexual being, they'll do whatever they want to do. But we need to start teaching our kids the healthy ways.
Exactly.
And not get growing up already having these hang up regarding sex. It's amazing how we the only species, right, if you think about it, that on one hand values sex so much, but on the other hand has this very archaic view about sex and the sexual feeling and the way we're supposed to exhibit our sexual desires. So we still have this very old school mentality regarding how we're supposed to manifest all our sexual desires, but would write a book about something like whatever Shades of Grey or whatever it was, right?
I know you read those books.
Dude.
That's the kind of enlightenment you talk about when you read books, right?
Of course. Don't you find it it's so contrary and so hypocritical? Absolutely. That at one point we would bear all on TV and that's okay. But then go, oh yeah, but when you're in your closed doors, you're supposed to be very inhibited and you're supposed to be very coy and don't express yourself in any way. And that contradiction is bound to screw anybody up.
Exactly.
Anybody. Exactly. So we need to start analyzing why we've been told this narrative and why it's maybe, if it's good for you, it's good for you. But why it might not be good for someone else. Exactly.
And I think what it is, and that's why I think specifically within the Black community, that's why I think our education around sex and safety sex practices are not something that is major, because we don't even speak about sex, let alone actually try and advise people or educate people how to pursue sexual desires in a healthy way, in terms of how to protect each other, how to, how to be more aware of birth control measures for men and women, and all these other factors are the reasons why, a lot of us are not well versed in that, because we are not even encouraged to even think or talk about sex until when you are actually
ready to do it,
have sex. And then all of a sudden
just figuring it out by your own.
And I just think that is a problem. I think on paper, there should be the freedom to be able to exercise agency, men or women or any other gender in between that want to engage in sexual activities, and there shouldn't be any derogatory or sort of I guess frowned upon ideal to anyone that chooses to engage in casual or not casual sex. And I just think we are far away from that, because I think those tropes exist between men and women as well. And I hear that, and it really, really angers me a lot, especially when I hear that from women, because I just think, you are again an agent of what's oppressing you. You are also playing a role in trying to perpetuate perpetuate this narrative that a woman that does this is not desired or desirable in a society.
Or it's not a good person.
Exactly. And actually, that's poisonous. You know, you choose to do what you want to do and not hold upon anyone else any judgment that she's choosing to do this or not choosing to do that. Because frankly, there's some people that are incapable of having casual sex because of the way their emotional and mental kind of dynamic is made up, and that's absolutely fine.
You just gotta know you.
Absolutely.
But don't look out on the other side and go, okay, that person is doing something else, so that person is wrong.
Absolutely.
Because that person could be looking at you going, you were wrong. And
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately as well, what I find sometimes, there's a lot of women that are really scared to be able to live the life that they probably want to live because of the ways in which they think society is going to judge them because of how they also judge other women. So when they say other women that do that, they as a response to how they feel that they wish they could do that, they start to try and make those women feel bad because they think, how dare you do what I wish I could do? You know, to be free and to exercise this sexual liberation that you seem to have, when I feel like if I do that, people are going to frown upon me. You know, so I just think a lot of that needs to come. People need to interrogate themselves and understand why it is that they also regurgitate these narratives that are equally problematic to themselves and to the society moving forward. So,
and the other question I was going to ask is, do you think there is anything as a society or as men or as whatever we can do to sort of change that narrative of the hypocrisy behind if a guy sleeps with 20 girls, he's a player. If a girl sleeps with 20 boys, well, she's a hoe or whatever negative word we've got to, what you call it, place on her, basically.
I mean, firstly, I would be intrigued to know what it's like in gay and single gender relationships, if they have the same tropes, because I actually have no idea if these kind of connotations are present there. But the first thing I would say about how to kind of, in my opinion, to slowly bring about the change is in the ways in which we raise our children and the ways in which we speak to the younger generation about, you know, these ideas that, you know, boys would be like, oh, you know, young mothers and stuff would be like, oh, it's going to be a heartbreaker, it's going to be this. Those things are speaking to the same narrative, but no one says to the daughter, oh, you're going to be breaking so many men's hearts because, you know, you're going to be with this guy and that other guy, you know, whereas the young boys would be like, oh, he's going to be a player like his dad, he's handsome, he's going to get all the girls, you know, and those language needs to start to change in the ways in which we say these things to the kids. And then in terms of what we provide them with from a younger age, getting them to understand the power of agency, you know, just giving them the wisdom to be able to make wise choices. So it's not about what you choose to do, it's about why are you choosing to do that? You know, if you decided to have sex with somebody when you were 16 or 17, it's not don't have sex. So why are you choosing to do that? What is it about that person that's giving you the freedom, the safety, comfortability to choose to make that decision with that person? And actually, when you choose to, if you choose to, are you doing it in a safe way? Are you doing it in a way that doesn't leave you vulnerable outside of your control? Just about having those frameworks that actually give people the tools to be able to make decisions based on their own agency. And until we start to raise kids, especially in schools, in terms of the way we do sex education as well, and not separating genders when we do sex education, actually, we are all collectively should be learning from the same book. You know, you shouldn't be telling a guy that this is what sex means and then telling a girl, because a guy should equally be aware of what sex should be like for a woman and vice versa. You know, and I think it's actually
very more important if you knew, because at the end of the day, if you're going to be with an opposite partner, you're not having sex with yourself.
Exactly.
You're having sex with someone else.
Exactly.
It's best you actually, because you already know about the way your body works.
Exactly.
It's about actually getting to understand your opposite partner.
Exactly.
And that is actually, I think, a key to a better understanding of the other sex. And if you're in a relationship or even if it's casual, being able to pleasure one another, you're actually more able to pleasure the other person if you know a little bit more about them and how they work.
Exactly. So on that note, we're going to bring this to a swift end.
Yeah, we will.
We shall catch you next time, potentially with some new guests as well. So that should be quite exciting. We are out.
Yeah.
Peace.